Massachusetts Attorney General implicates family behind Purdue Pharma in opioid deaths. Now, we covered this story when it first hit the scene. Here are some developments within it. The Sackler family behind Purdue Pharma knew that its painkiller OxyContin was causing overdoses, yet continued to cash in as deaths mounted, the Massachusetts Attorney General alleges in court documents that were filed this week. In a new 274-page memorandum, Attorney General Maura Healey details a chain of command that she alleges implicates 8 Sackler family members as well as 9 Purdue board members or executives in the nation's deadly opioid epidemic. An earlier version of the memo, filed on December 21st, was more than half redacted after Purdue Pharma argued to withhold information about the Sacklers, one of the richest families in the United States. Some sections remain blacked out in Tuesday's filing. The new memo spells out Haley's allegation that the Sacklers flooded Massachusetts with sales rep, influenced state legislation, and financially backed medical facilities and universities so that they could tout Purdue opioids. Haley describes former Purdue chairman and president Richard Sackler as a micromanager obsessed with profits in Massachusetts and the rest of the country. Tracking national sales, Sackler demanded that he travel to doctors' offices alongside reps and complained advertising about the opioids wasn't as positive as he wanted. Internally, executives worried about Sackler's promotion of opioids. I'm sure they did. I'd like to believe that. I don't know if I buy it. So here specifically is what they're referring to. There's a process called, there's actually an institution that is against this, and it's called No Free Lunch. What that is in reference to is what you get big pharma executives, such as the Sackler family and their executives. They will travel to doctors' offices around the country. They will meet with doctors. They will buy them lunch and schmooze them and give them products. That's why a lot of times when you see pens in a doctor's office, you'll notice that pen is usually from some type of pharmaceutical company. This pen's from a hotel that I stayed at recently. But usually that's the case in a doctor's office, and you'll notice that in your doctor's office, typically. Now, one thing that you can do, and you can Google No Free Lunch, they, at one point, and I'm assuming they still have it, they have a list of doctors that have signed the No Free Lunch pledge. So you can kind of look at that and see if you can find a doctor based on that. You might not be able to, because it's not an issue that people talk about a lot. It's not an issue that gets a lot of attention. So a lot of doctors haven't signed this pledge. And I'd like to think it's not because they don't want to. It's just because it hasn't been brought to their attention. I'd like to think that. Maybe I'm right about that. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I only know so many medical doctors. But that is something that's out there. So what they'll do is the big pharma execs, they'll go to a doctor's office, they'll have lunch with them, they'll schmooze them, they'll give them all kinds of free stuff. And what do they want in return? They want more prescriptions for their drugs. It doesn't matter if the patient needs it or not. They want more prescriptions for their drugs. Should this be illegal? Abso-fucking-lutely. Is it? No. Because we let big pharma operate completely unregulated. There are no protections for consumers when it comes to big pharma. Because we've allowed this for-profit model to happen in our healthcare and in our pharma. So that's what that's referring to, by the way, when they say that Sackler wanted to go to doctor's office and have lunches with people, and they're saying, oh, his executives were concerned about that. I highly doubt that. I highly doubt that's true. Because when you're an executive at a big drug company like that, you already know that stuff goes on. I doubt you're morally opposed to it. Or you at the very least passively accept it. So I doubt the person at the top, the very top, was the only culprit. I have a feeling people close to the top were culprits too. So Sackler wasn't satisfied with Purdue Pharma's sales in 2011. The documents allege after 1 week of prescriptions doubled Purdue's forecasts, he wrote to the sales staff, I had hoped for better results. That year, Massachusetts sales rep pushed doctors to prescribe Purdue Pharma's opiates more than 1,000 times to elderly patients with arthritis, the memo says. So the sales reps went out and they pushed the doctors more than 1,000 times to give it to the elderly. the most susceptible and vulnerable among us when it comes to medicine. The elderly. And that's who they're targeting. One sales rep was ordered to increase prescriptions by 62% in Massachusetts. Purdue also threatened to fire 2 reps in Massachusetts because the physicians they visited hadn't written enough opioid prescriptions. So if you happen to be a sales rep, and maybe your physician just practices medicine and only prescribes stuff if it's necessary, then you risk losing your job. This is what we allow corporate America to do. We allow this to happen. And people passively accept it on all levels because we've just accepted the fact, well, corporations are just these amoral institutions and they're only concerned with profit, and that's okay. We don't take into account all the cyclical effects that happen because of it. And what people passively do, just saying, well, it's my job, whatever. The entire system is completely fucked. It's completely fucked. And there are bills out there that get the government directly involved with drug making so that the profit motive isn't the driving factor anymore. There's also bills out there to give everyone health care, i.e. Medicare for all. That would fix this problem. A problem, by the way, that other countries don't have. At least not near to the degree that we do. Not near to the same degree. When you make human health a profit center, morally repulsive results will follow. And morally destructive results will follow. And death will follow. That's what we see on a daily basis in this country. And this is just one for instance. Now they're saying it's unclear if they fired anyone. So right now it looks like this court case is still going on. In the past 11 years, Purdue's sales representative visited Massachusetts prescribers and pharmacists more than 150,000 times. I'm going to repeat that. Purdue's sales representatives visited Massachusetts prescribers and pharmacists more than 150,000 times in the past 11 years. A status hearing is scheduled for January 25th in Massachusetts Suffolk County Superior Court. Purdue Pharma has in the past attempted to shield documents from becoming public. This is another day in the contemporary United States. There are people whose job it is to go persuade doctors to prescribe drugs that people may or may not need because it makes their company more money. And this business model is smiled upon by Big Pharma. It's smiled upon and encouraged and embraced. Doesn't matter if the patient needs it or not. Doesn't matter if it could cause addiction. And it has. What has all this led to? A opioid crisis. This has led to an opioid crisis. This has led to the demonization of pot and the unlawful imprisonment of people who have had pot. Because this is all connected to the drug war. This is all connected to hemp and pot and so forth. All these things are connected. No free lunch, evergreening, that's another thing the pharmaceutical industry does. And that what does that do? That allows them to renew their patent based on just changing something small about the drug, like changing the color of the pill or something, so that way generics can't be introduced into the market. And there's a bill out there to end that. And that's how they can keep your drug prices high. Through stuff like evergreening. Through stuff like giving free lunches to doctors and overprescribing stuff. And we accept this business model. It's absolutely disgusting. Again, it should be a headline every day. It should be a headline every day. There are people out there dedicated to getting you hooked on pills. There are people out there whose jobs rely on getting you hooked on pills. That's a job in the United States that corporations make people do. We accept that as business. That should be a headline every day. That should be a headline every day. Salaried employees' jobs rely on getting you hooked on drugs. I think people's heads would turn if they saw that. And they'd think, really? That's a thing? Yeah, That's real. That's fucking real. It goes on every day, unchecked. Sleep tight. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together